So the first time I ever did this, I got it wrong. So let that sink in as, yeah, this is probably a hard one. I'm usually pretty good at these. I'm going to try to come at it with fresh eyes and kind of give you my, kind of clean slate approach to it. But the first time I did it, I think was in one of my prediction videos a while ago. But, I would definitely take a look at the passage first. And I would also kind of glance down at those choices and realize I'm in for it. Those are some difficult words. I know them, but they are tricky. So let's take a look at the passage, though. Containing over 160 billion base pairs of DNA resulting from polyploidy whole genome duplication and accumulation of non-coding DNA without significant deletion, the genome of this fern, is the largest known among eukaryotes, and given the high biological cost of extremely large genomes, is unlikely to be... I genuinely have no idea where this is going. I know what's important, right? It says it's the largest, and there's a cost for being large. So it seems bad that this thing has a large genome, right? I mean, that doesn't seem good. So it's unlikely to be, I don't know, the unlikely is messing with me. It's making me think that this is one of those twisted relationships passages where, yeah, maybe the words are hard too, but the real skill is involving like just kind of understanding what the passage is even saying. I don't like that there's this negative word right before the blank because it's making it even harder to think about. So what if I just said likely? Does that help? And given the high biological cost of extremely large genomes is likely to be as big as it gets? I don't know. I really don't know. I can't even finish the simpler version of it. So I've got this weird negative word in front of the blank. Plus, even if I get rid of that for a second and try to think about what the opposite would be, I got nothing. So this is definitely difficult for me. Yeah, I normally can just get a dumb summary based on what the passage is saying, but here I can't. So I'm going to have to just go to the choices, and then there I don't get much help either. Protracted, a word probably most people don't know, means kind of like drawn out or lengthened. So you might think of like someone gives like a protracted speech. They're just droning on and on and on. I sometimes have, protracted explanations for these questions. I'm definitely guilty of going on a little too long. So does that make sense here? It's the largest known genome, and given the high cost of large genomes, it's unlikely to be lengthened any further. That seems possible, right? I mean, it's already so big, and that's so costly to be that big that it makes sense that it's unlikely to get even bigger. I could see it. Let's leave it. Superseded means surpassed. So think of something replacing something else, getting ahead of it. So does that make sense? It's the largest known genome, and given the high cost of large genomes, it's unlikely to be surpassed. It's unlikely that something else will have a bigger genome. Yeah, okay, that kind of makes sense too. We are talking about how it's the largest, so talking about almost like ranking things, I guess, makes sense. I don't know that that's better than A. I think both are reasonable. So, all right, let's move on. Curtailed. Curtailed means to curtail something is to cut it short. So it's obviously the opposite of A. So that's already not a great sign. But let's just see how it fits. It's the largest known genome, high biological cost. It's unlikely to be curtailed. No, it's probably likely to be curtailed. At some point, this fern is going to, ditch some unnecessary piece of its DNA. So that actually makes sense. As like part of the story, but it doesn't fit in the blank, right? We want to almost say like the opposite. So it is likely to be cut short. Something biologically should happen to shut this thing down. This fern is getting out of control. Obviate, I love that word. It's one of my favorite words. It is not a common word. It is something that could show up in the SAT, obviously, but it is not a word you would use in regular conversation, though you should. It's a good one. So to obviate means to make something useless or kind of obsolete, right? So to make something unnecessary is maybe another way to put it. So I don't think that has anything to do with what we're talking about here. It's the large genome, high cost of genomes. It's unlikely to be obviated. It's unlikely to be made unnecessary. It's a genome for a plant. What do you mean unnecessary? Unnecessary to who? It doesn't, useless to who? To the plant? If anything, maybe if I were to try to stretch this, I could see that it's kind of saying the opposite of what I want, right? That it says there's an accumulation of non-coding DNA. So maybe some of this is useless. And so we would want to say that it's likely for that useless DNA to be eliminated. So some of this DNA to be obviated. It doesn't fit. I'm stretching it completely. So we can just get rid of that word. And as is often the case with questions where the answer choices are difficult words, some of them are just completely nonsense. Like, it doesn't make any sense to put it in that blank. It's just most people don't know the word, so they don't know that it doesn't make any sense. Now, between A and B, again, I forget what I picked the first time I did it. I know I got it wrong, so I think I picked A. So I'm pretty sure I did that because I was like, yeah, it's unlikely to be getting bigger, which makes sense. The problem is that's not quite how you would use that word. So it's not so much that the logic of A wouldn't work. I think my logic holds, and I think I like that logic better, right? It's already the longest. There's a high cost to being this long, so it makes sense that it won't get longer, right? It's unlikely to get longer. The problem is protracted is not a word we really use in terms of like length in like a physical sense. We use it to talk about time. Again, the example I used before is a protracted speech, a protracted explanation. It's long. It's long in terms of time, not in terms of distance. And I know it's weird to think about distance when we're talking about strands of DNA, right? They're really tiny, but that's kind of what we'd still be saying. We're talking about it as a physical length, and it's not going to get longer. That's true, but protracted is all about time. So it's just not a good fit. So I'm going to throw that word that sometimes I throw into these questions around. This question actually kind of hits all the main ideas that I would think of for a vocab question that's hard, right? It has hard words in the choices, so you got to learn new words. It has a twisted relationship, meaning it's difficult to understand what the passage is saying. So you don't even know what you're looking for when you go to the choices. And then when we're down to two choices, we have this issue of usage, meaning a word kind of in a dumb summary way fits. It makes sense with the logic of the passage. It makes sense in the blank. But the word just isn't used that way. It's hard to define why. It just doesn't work. And so those kinds of usage questions are difficult because you can memorize the definition of a word, as I did here, and still not have a clear sense of it. I mean, I know what protracted means. When I did this question originally, I'm pretty sure I just didn't think of it as being about time. I was just like, it fits. Maybe my understanding of the word isn't quite right. Supersede just felt weird to me. Like, I get it now, but I don't have any clues elsewhere in this passage that are telling me we're trying to compare. I guess we do, though. I didn't see that we were comparing this particular fern's genome to other genomes and saying like something else might overtake it. But it is there. It says it's the largest known. So it's there. It does make a bit of a comparison. I just didn't see B coming. It's the only one that makes sense. I get why it's the answer. I'm not disputing the question. I think if the time pressure is on, and even for me, these are words I'm not using on a daily basis. I know what they mean, but it's hard to kind of get the finer points of a word sometimes. And I just didn't have it in the moment when I was doing this question the first time. And yeah, I went with a choice that felt more logical, even if definition wise, it wasn't right. That's difficult. That's fine. There's going to be hard questions in the test. Sometimes you will get them right. Sometimes you will get them wrong. It is just the way of it. Don't worry about a question like this too much. You're not going to see very many like it, but it does show you it's hard to get an 800 because of stuff like this.